Welcome back to another edition of Force Friday, where we talk about Star Wars theories, characters, concepts, comparisons, analyzations, collectibles, and more. And today we're gonna kind of talk about things that started in toy form and have ended up canonized. This has kind of become a popular topic since Bib Fortuna's staff was seen at the end of Mandalorian. So it seemed timely, and it seemed like something that could be a bit interesting to look back on and consider. So right from the beginning, Kenner was playing catch up with Star Wars. The initial batch of figures didn't hit stores until early 1978, nearly a year after the film opened, and it began one of the most expansive lines of action figure history. Despite this, not everything in the films would make for an exciting toy, and sometimes the films themselves necessitated more product. So let's start with the Kenner era. When designing the original toy range, Kenner was mostly provided with black and white photos, and they weren't always clear. The main characters fared pretty well, but as Kenner expanded their range in 1979 to include background aliens, particularly from the Cantina, the accuracy was kind of put on the back burner, and producing the product became obviously the priority. Walrus Man, aka Ponda Baba, which I hear we're getting a 6-inch version of here shortly, Hammerhead, and Greedo were all recognizable, but the Kenner designers had to simply invent much of their visual look. Ponda Baba's orange jacket was mistaken for a sleeveless one and accented with bright blue, while Greedo lacked his jacket entirely. The costume on Hammerhead was almost completely invented, which is why they put him in some sort of weird infant onesie that even as a child made me slightly uncomfortable and embarrassed for him, having to walk around a bar wearing a bodysuit like he was a backup dancer for MTV's The Grind in the 90s. If you know, you know. The Sears exclusive Creature Cantina, a plastic and cardboard hybrid depicting the Mos Eisley Cantina, included a single pack-in figure, Snaggletooth. In the film, he is a short, red-clothed alien with ape feet, but here, he was a standard 6-foot dude in a blue jumpsuit with bright silver go-go boots. Dubbed Blue Snaggletooth, the figure was eventually sculpted to the correct height and color and released on a single card back. All 4 of these figures appeared as background characters in Star Wars: The Clone Wars. Blue Snaggletooth shows Obi-Wan some of the destruction left by Darth Maul in the premiere of Season 5. Walrus Man appears slouched outside the diner in the infamous D-Squad arc, and Hammerhead and Greedo appear in the Ahsoka arc of Season 7. A few of them also appear as extras in Star Wars Rebels. The Imperial Troop Transport was designed by Mark Botterill and released in 1979. Capable of holding 10 figures, it was made official canon in 2014 with the release of Star Wars Rebels and jumped to live action in The Mandalorian. The recent Vintage Collection version was also designed by Mark. There was a significant price jump from the basic figures to vehicles. Feeling there was a gap in the market between the figures and the vehicles, Kenner began designing a line of low-cost, small vehicles, dubbed mini-rigs. They usually only held 1 or 2 figures, but were designed to fit seamlessly into the universe. Kenner pitched the series to Lucasfilm as vehicles that existed just off-screen, quote-unquote. Most of these mini-rigs appeared in the Marvel Star Wars comics and newspaper strip, and again on-screen in the Droids cartoon. One of these vehicles, the MTV-7, appears to be somewhat based on concept art for the AT-AT done by Joe Johnston. This concept art was later used as the design for the Juggernaut seen in Revenge of the Sith, Rogue One, and The Mandalorian. Kenner designed a fairly expansive range of Ewok toys for their 1983 Return of the Jedi collection. They had an Ewok glider and a much larger Ewok village playset, but needed a vehicle to fit in between. With nothing to go off of in the film, Kenner designed the Ewok Battle Wagon, which made its way into the Ewoks cartoon. It's worth noting that by Return of the Jedi, Lucas was a lot more merch savvy, with people like Gary Kurtz saying the Ewoks were designed to sell toys. But scouring plastic to make visually interesting things didn't stop just in the 80s, mind you. It took place with the prequels as well. When writing the story for Attack of the Clones, Lucas came to think the story of the Clone Wars was largely unnecessary for the main story of Anakin. Thus, himself and Lucas Licensing developed the Clone Wars, branding to drive the next 3 years of product and merchandise, until Revenge of the Sith hit in 2005. A multimedia project like Shadow of the Empire, the designs and some of the general concepts of the Wars bad guys were hashed out between Lucas Licensing, Lucas himself, and a person whose name I wouldn't try to pronounce on my best day with my best luck. But he was hired to create the 2003 Clone Wars micro series. You know who I'm talking about. Nothing with Attack of the Clones itself was changed in any way. Lucas effectively handed licensing a blank slate to be built off the back of. Hasbro in particular pitched the concept of ARC Troopers, and many of the wartime Jedi designs were created in tandem between several licenses. Exactly who created what isn't known, but it's generally believed that the media, the Clone Wars microseries, and the Dark Horse Republic comic series had to adhere to these designs. Even several action figure original designs, like Hasbro's exploding super battle droid, which featured a missile-firing cannon arm, were used, and this is evidence of the greater role merchandising was playing in media. Republic Commando, a video game tie-in in the Clone Wars project, notably used this design for a variant of super battle droids, and it was later reused for the 2008 Filoni Clone Wars series. And of course, it ties into the sequels as well. After the release of The Last Jedi, a visual effects supervisor who worked on the film said that the scene where Kylo fires the missile from his TIE silencer was altered. Originally, the missiles shot from under the cockpit. It was changed to have them pop out from the side of the wings to match the upcoming Hasbro TIE silencer toy. This was altered months ahead of release. What else is altered in the modern films to match merchandise is unknown, and it's especially hard to call if it's done during development. For the release of The Force Awakens in 2015, Hasbro brought back the mini-rig concept, which had been very popular during the Clone Wars line. One such vehicle was a black First Order stormtrooper with a matching speeder bike, the design of which was taken 4 years later and used in Season 2 of Star Wars Resistance. In Season 2 of The Mandalorian, Cobb Vanth loads Boba Fett's jetpack with a bright red missile that is clearly based on the original Kenner toy. He even bends forward and fires the rocket in the same fashion. And of course, at the end of The Mandalorian, Season 2, we see Bib Fortuna sitting atop a makeshift throne on top of a throne, thrones on thrones on thrones on thrones, holding the staff that his toy wielded in the Kenner line, bringing us full circle for our discussion. It's a little bit of fan service. It's also a little bit of world building, and it's done in a very particular way that kind of feels satisfying, I think, to the general viewing audience, regardless of the amount of stakes or chips that they have put into the game to enjoy. Meaning, I can sit next to my wife and watch The Mandalorian, and she sees the staff and says, "Oh, that's a cool staff." And I'm sitting there going, "Oh my God, they used the Kenner toy staff." Both of us satisfied for different reasons, thus a fan service thing that pushes the greater narrative or enjoyment level forward. So I dig that a lot. I dig the tradition of it a lot, and I love how Star Wars uses itself to further perpetuate its own visual aesthetic. It's a very interesting and unique way to kind of keep the visual design inside of its own wheelhouse, so it stays true to the sort of visual elements and traditions that people know when they think of the design aesthetic of Star Wars. Simultaneously, it plays on a nostalgia. Sometimes that nostalgia dates all the way back to the 70s. Sometimes that nostalgia dates back to just 2 years ago in some video game that you bought. It's a very clever way to kind of keep fan interest and also make fans feel like they need to take more of a part in the merchandising. Don't get it twisted for a second. It's definitely a game, and I'm well aware of it, but it doesn't mean that a game can't be fun. And in this case, it kind of is. Hope you guys are staying safe. Hope you guys are staying sane. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.